So your parent is a narcissist, now what? In our therapy practice, we often have clients come in who know that they went through some really hard things in their childhood, but they're not exactly sure how to describe what it is that they're experiencing. Specific clients who have had parents with narcissistic personality disorder or even just really strong traits of narcissism have some pretty specific symptoms that they describe when they come into our office. If you think you might have had a parent with narcissism, then stick with me for the next few minutes and I'm going to talk you through some of what you can do now as an adult to begin some of your healing journey from this type of abuse. Now, if you aren't sure exactly what narcissism is, or you're not sure if your parents maybe would meet some of this criteria, you can check out our last couple of videos because we walk you through this in a lot more detail. But for the intents and purposes of this discussion today, I'll just remind you that narcissism is this thing that we all experience, at least to some extent, but it's where we really have difficulty empathizing with other people and where we maybe see everything as being about us, and everything seems to be a reflection of us. If you have a parent who is a narcissist, they likely had a really difficult time empathizing with you or with your emotions. Often people who've had narcissistic parents come in and feel like no matter what it is that they're experiencing emotionally, it's wrong. And this is something that they have experienced from the time that they were just kids. Their parents commonly told them that their emotions were too much, were wrong, and that they just needed to stop. Now, if your parent did that, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a narcissist. They just might not have a ton of emotional intelligence. But in the case of narcissism, these things happen way more than not. Children's emotions are invalidated, and children feel like they're not allowed to have any of their own opinions, any of their own emotional expression, and that they're really in charge of making sure that they take care of their parent at all times. So if this is something that you experience, then you may have had a narcissistic parent. Now, I say that we all experience narcissism, at least to some extent, because there are times that all of us struggle to empathize with other people, and there are times that all of us tend to put ourselves first and struggle to allow other people to have their own emotions or their own opinions. But as I was saying, in the case of being parented by a narcissist, this is something that was pretty consistent for a lot of people throughout their childhood. So if this is you, what can you do about it now? Well, I tell people to get into therapy because there's lots of things that you will likely need to work through in adulthood because of the childhood that you've had. But today I'm going to give you a quick intervention that you can start to do so that you can work on separating yourself from that narcissistic person in your life. Now, don't panic because some people think that as soon as I say that, I mean you've got to cut off this relationship altogether. And that's definitely not what I'm saying. Sometimes that is the only way to go. Sometimes you have to cut off that relationship with a narcissist, especially if it's highly abusive. Other times there are ways to navigate some of these relationships. But today we're going to start with an intervention that you can do that isn't necessarily physical separation. I'm talking about mental and emotional separation from the narcissist that's in your life. So to start this exercise, I want you to just imagine yourself. Here you are, whether you're sitting, standing, and this is your own personal physical space. And in your mind, I want you to see if you can imagine that there's a bubble that grows up and around your entire being. This bubble is invisible and it can be permeable if you decide that you would like it to be, but the bubble is there and in existence so that it separates you and who you are from everyone else around you. As you start to notice this bubble, take a couple of deep breaths and remind yourself that this is your own personal space. This is a space where you have control and where you're allowed to experience anything that you want or need to experience. It isn't a problem because it's just inside your bubble. Once you have that bubble around you established, I want you to start to just notice what it is that is going on inside of you. First, notice the thoughts that are running through your head. This might be certain opinions that you have, or even just things that you're thinking. And I want you to remind yourself that it's okay to have your own thoughts and your own opinions inside your head. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to share them with a narcissist right away or ever, because that might not be safe. But it would be okay for those to exist within the space of this bubble. The next thing that I want you to do is to check in with your body and the different sensations that are in your body. And remind yourself that whatever emotions you're experiencing are also safe within this bubble. Again, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to express those emotions to the other person in your life. You will determine in the future if that would be something that's safe for you, but as of this moment, it's okay to just give yourself the space to exist. This is something that you can do as an exercise multiple times a day. Stop, picture yourself inside of your bubble, and allow yourself to have your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This might sound like a simple activity, but when you've been raised by a narcissist, this can be really hard and really scary. You might have to do it in small doses or for really short periods of time, or maybe you might have to start with only one thought at a time, one thought that you allow yourself to have that may be different than what the narcissist would tell you would be okay. Just giving yourself some of this emotional and physical space to be your own person can help you start to set some of those boundaries and see yourself for who you are, which is a separate and individual person who doesn't have to always think and feel the exact same things that the narcissist wants them to. This is just one of the first steps in therapy to help you begin to recover from the narcissistic abuse that you may have experienced as a child. Again, I would totally recommend that if this is something you think that you've experienced, you should reach out to a mental health professional, because there are many exercises like this that can help you to get into a better space. Thanks for joining us today, and check out more of our videos if you have any other questions about narcissism and how to navigate some of this in your life.